Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a new choke to try out with a shell that has been pretty mediocre in all of our testing. It's been a while since we brought it out, but I found that I still had one more of them left, so I just figured we'll throw this combination together and see what it gives us. It might be halfway decent, it might not be. I really don't know what we're going to see, but I guess we'll just have to try it and see what kind of pattern it gives us, because sometimes it's these surprising combos that you don't expect to be good performers that are actually good. But as for the shell I've got out here today, I brought out some of these, the Federal Grand Slam turkey shells. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1 3/4 ounce payload of lead 5s, moving about 1,200 feet per second. And they do have the Federal Flight Control Flex Wad, which I'm really not a fan of in general. The regular flight control wads seem to be much better in the buckshot shells, but these Flex Wads have never really impressed me. But we'll see what these Grand Slam 5s can do through today's combination. And as for today's setup, I brought out my Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag, which has performed pretty solid with some lead 5s before, but it is an overboard shotgun to a 10 gauge bore size. So with that flight control flex wad, I really don't know what we're going to see from it. But for the choke I've got, I picked up one of these for super cheap. This is a Primos Jellyhead Maximum. It's a 690 constriction, which is very much your standard turkey choke constriction for an 835. Yes, this choke does have some porting up here, so once again, we'll see what it does with the flight control flex wad, but I don't know. I saw this combination, figured we'd throw it together, and we'll see what happens. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. Turkey target is at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what this kind of thrown together combination does. It might work out, it might be disappointing because of those Grand Slam shells again. I really don't know what we're going to see, but let's try it and see what kind of pattern it all gives us. Alright, that shell gave us 1178 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1200, so we were just a little bit under that claim, but still, we're well within the realm of reason here, especially considering we have an overboard barrel, and I believe it's a 26-inch barrel as well, so that absolutely does make sense. So looking perfectly fine for a velocity up here, but what kind of a pattern did it give us down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, well, now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. And I gotta say, it's pretty terrible. It's kind of about what I thought it was going to be, and this has pretty much been the story with these Grand Slam shells across the board. We've probably seen one or two patterns that were a little better than this, but ultimately, they're just not anything fantastic. Now, we might have favored a little bit high on this, and overall, the pattern looks pretty center, although we definitely have a little bit of a hotter area over here on the left. So, I don't know if our pattern was just to the left and there is the same amount of just sporadic stuff all the way off the left edge of that paper as well, if that pattern is just that huge, or if we just had a random little hot spot in there or what, I don't know, but definitely not a great turkey pattern whatsoever. Technically speaking, would you have gotten this turkey? Probably so. There are a couple right in front of the eyeball there and a couple more down at the bottom of his spine, so you probably would have gotten that bird, although definitely not very pretty. And ultimately, this combination just didn't work out. Now, I think it's probably a combination of a bunch of things here. These Grand Slam shells have struggled at the best of times. I'm not generally a fan of the flight control flex wad that's in there. It has struggled, and running those through an overboard 835 might have messed with it a little bit, and who knows, there is a little porting in that jellyhead choke, so maybe that played with it, although I haven't really found that to be a huge factor when it comes to those flight control flex wads. So I don't know on this one. It's just a terrible performance. We really don't have a hot core area at all there, unless you count maybe this over here on the left. If that little hot zone was over his head, sure, you would absolutely have a dead turkey at 40, but I would rather not use a waterfowl looking type of pattern for a turkey hunt. So I guess coming into it, it was kind of one of those little bit more random combinations that we didn't really know if it was going to work or if it was going to be terrible or what the case was, but sometimes that's why you got to try setups like this, because sometimes they'll work out fantastic to your surprise, and other times they'll be looking like this, which is not what you want. Either way, based on my experience with these shells, just spend the money on a box of longbeard shells. I think they're a little more expensive, but spend the extra few dollars and get those. They're way better. So definitely nothing impressive for today's results, that's for sure. And here's that flight control flex wad, and it once again looks absolutely perfect like it typically does. Definitely nothing out of the ordinary here. Everything looks nice and even. It didn't snag on anything. There's nothing stuck down in there. So in theory, this wad should have done its job, but it just hasn't been an impressive performer in my experience, and running it through an overboard barrel may very well have messed with it a little bit, but I don't know. The wad should have done its job, especially considering the box claims that it does great through any turkey setup. So I don't know on this one. Wad looks fine, but it definitely didn't do its ideal job, I wouldn't say. Alright y'all, well, what do you think about that pattern right there? Definitely a pretty big disappointment, although I'm not entirely surprised with those Grand Slam shells either. That's why I've said it multiple times over the course of us testing these that just go out and spend the money on a Longbeard load. It's going to give you tremendously better performance through pretty much anything you put it through. But I don't know. I found I had one more of those Grand Slams in the cabinet, and I saw that 835 and that Jellyhead sitting there, so I figured, hey, we'll throw this combo together just to see what happens. And what we got is definitely not a turkey pattern that I would ever want to hunt with. Technically speaking, is it good enough? Probably so, but I don't want to push my luck when the pattern is that broad. There's several larger areas in that pattern where he could potentially sneak past you, and if there's any other birds even close to him, then you're going to have a good chance of hitting them as well. Not to mention, if we lowered that pattern a little bit there, you would start getting pellets in your meat and everything else, which is not what you really want. But that's why you test a wide variety of combinations, because some are going to work and some just aren't, and this is one that just didn't work. So leave all your thoughts about it down in the comments. Is that about what you expected out of them? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Grand Slam shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? And what other shells do you want to see us run through that Jellyhead 690? Because I definitely don't think that choke caused us to see a terrible pattern today. So leave all your thoughts down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.